Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. Let's just cut to the chase. We've got a lot of memes on our screen, and for those not in the know, there's probably a bit of a question as to why these three Pokemon were thrown together in the Great League Remix Cup. They're not the best Pokemon ever, and they have less than no synergy with one another. So, to answer that question, this is actually a theme team based on the recent Terra leak, and if you guys are interested in learning more, search it up at your own risk. But each of these Pokemon were featured in stories that, let's just say, gave us new perspective on the Pokemon world. With that being said, if you find enjoyment in today's video, don't forget to leave it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. But without keeping you too much longer, let's just hop into game number one. In game number one, it's going to be Octillery leading into a Dragonite, a terrifying lead for my very frail team to see. Octillery is, I believe, the bulkiest Pokemon on this team with a stat product of a whopping 1600, very, very frail. That is relative to something like a Charizard, by the way. Nevertheless, we're going to fire off an Octazooka. We are going to grab the shield from the Dragonite, and now we're going to fire off Octazooka number 2. Had to shield that first Dragon Claw because we would have absolutely died to it, and the rest of my team is ill-equipped to take fast move pressure from this Pokemon. We get the double Octazooka debuff, and they are not going to stick around for it. They're going to switch out into Cresselia, and here I'm going to stay in with Typhlosion. It may have possibly been an okay idea to switch out into my Ursaring, as Ursaring can handle Cresselia very well, but I wouldn't want to commit a shield and just be down a shield Typhlosion. Is never a good experience for any of the trainers involved. So, we are going to take out the Cresselia. The Blast Burn lands, does massive damage, and here we're watching for what they bring in, but it's going to be the Dragonite. The play here is always to throw our Thunder Punch to deny any potential energy from the Dragonite. Dragonite's going to be able to get the farm down of the Typhlosion. And now, we bring in our Ursaring, and we are able to sneak our Shadow Claw successfully. Not something that happens to me all the time, but something that does happen to me all the time is unfortunate alignment, and Ursaring finds itself onto a Registeel, and this game is unfortunately over. There are no shields left on the screen, so for this very first game, Ursaring's gonna get blasted. GG's to this trainer. That game unfortunately did not go very well, so let's get some redemption in game number 2. It's going to be Octillery leading into a Shadow Alolan Ninetales on Powder Snow, so we are very comfortable with staying in this lead. And now, we've got one move that hits this Pokemon for massive super effective damage. Are they going to respect it? The Gunk Shot goes unshielded, down goes the Shadow Alolan Ninetales. In comes a terrifying Pokemon for my team to see. It's going to be a Shadow Magnezone, but Shadow Magnezone's going to have to deal with an Octazooka. They're going to shield it up. In comes the Typhlosion. They're going to take an Incinerate, bring in the Whiscash, and here I'm throwing immediately. I have to throw this Blast Burn. I'm not faking a Solar Beam. None of those shenanigans are going on right now. They shield up the Blast Burn, and it was a CMP tie, meaning my Typhlosion's job is done, and now we're going to bring in that Ursaring. Ursaring has a 2-shield advantage, and now we can easily just CMP tie them there with the Trailblaze, but that Magnezone has a move loaded, and I don't want to pace slower than that Magnezone. So we're going to commit a shield, and then fire off a move just before they're able to make another move here. Ursaring would have won CMP, so I could have played into the CMP tie, but I was a little unsure of what their counts were. Back in comes the Magnezone. Magnezone is not going to be ready. They're going to fire off a Mirror Shot, but even if they debuff me, this disrespectful Swift will be more than enough to KO. Monstrous damage from the Brown Bear. Down goes the Magnezone. GG's to this trainer. Let's see what awaits us in the next game. Octillery leads into a Shadow Alolan Marowak. I bet this guy really wishes he saved this Cubone to be a Shadow Kanto Marowak, but nevertheless, Octillery is going to make that Octazooka and fire it off nigh immediately. Octazooka grabs the shield from the Shadow Alolan Marowak. They're going to fire off a move here. This is only going to be a Bone Club, so I am going to let it go. They are going to continue farming, but I'm able to make another Octazooka before they're able to make another Bone Club. And that's very nice for me. They get debuffed finally, but they are going to be able to KO me with a move. They are not going to throw it. I am so confused about that. They definitely had the move by that point. Akazuka gets the quadruple debuff, and now in comes a Machamp. Well, I know my Ursaring can never see this Pokemon, so in comes my Typhlosion to take advantage of the Machamp. Machamp throwing on terrible fast move timing, nearly letting an entire Incinerate through for free. Cross Chop is going to grab my shield, and I don't want them to make another Cross Chop and grab my last shield, so I'm throwing this Thunder Punch to deny the energy from the Machamp. Machamp goes down, 0 shields remaining. Now, what are they going to bring in? It's this Shadow, Alolan Marowak once again. I am going to shield a Bone Club. I probably get one shot by a Bone Club. In comes my Ursaring, and in the back, it's going to be Whimsicott. Whimsicott not going to enjoy these Swifts, though. One thing about Shadow Ursaring, Swift does not look like it's a 35 energy move. Look at the damage. They're going to be able to fire off a move here, but this is a Moonblast, and the Moonblast is required to KO, meaning that Typhlosion can come in for the KO. Disrespect. Blast Bird onto the Shadow Alolan Marowak. Shadow Alolan Marowak. This is a massive overkill. GG's to this trainer. In the next game, it's going to be Octillery leading into Lurk Daddy himself. Oh my goodness, but a non-Shadow Golurk, a lot less threatening. You're going to see me switch out into the Ursaring, and they are going to counter switch with a Sableye. This is such a confusing play for me, because this just means that I can one-shield and always take switch advantage. But not only that, I'm going to lead with a massive amount of energy. Because of that Trailblaze, I just Shadow Claw the Sableye all the way down. Down goes the Sableye, I'm at 50% HP, and they bring in another Shadow Claw user. Ursaring firing off the Trailblaze here, ramping up the Shadow Claw damage because you cannot shield this Shadow Claw damage. And now, we're going to fire off a Swift. A Swift probably threatens the Golisopod from this range, let's be honest. We are 2 stages boosted, and they are going to commit their last shield. I'm more than happy with committing my shield on this Ursaring, as they have next to no fast move pressure onto it, and just going for a Swift on this Golisopod. I threw my Swift immediately as soon as I got it, so I was expecting them to actually catch it there, but they are not going to do it. Back in comes Lurk Daddy. Lurk Daddy getting torn to pieces by the Shadow Claws, however. And now, we just bring in our Octillery and force them to throw energy to remove the Octillery from the field. They're going to fire off a move here. Anything short of a nuke will not KO. Earth Power connects, KOs the Octillery, but now we bring in our Typhlosion, and oh no, they just made a move. If this is another Earth Power, we are cooked, but it is not. It's just the Shadow Punch. Golurk gets farmed down. GG's to this trainer. In the next game, it's going to be Octillery leading into a Stunfisk of the Galarian variety. We are going to stay in this matchup, as I'd rather this here than on the Ursaring, and honestly, with an energy lead, I'd definitely rather this here than on my Typhlosion. They're going to stay in, tank an Octazooka, and switch into their Ariados. They bank the Rock Slide for later, however, so we do have to keep that in mind. But now, on paper, our Typhlosion's a massive wall to the Ariados energy, but look at the damage of that Trailblaze. We're going for the full farm down. They fire off their move on alignment, as they do want to get off another move onto the Typhlosion to threaten a shield. They do grab one shield, but that's perfectly fine. I'm just clicking my Blast Burn button because I am a Typhlosion user, and that is all we know how to do. Blast Burn KOs the Galarian Stunfisk. In comes a Drifblim, but I learned yesterday that Drifblim's worst nightmare is on the team, and that Pokemon's name is going to be Ursaring. In comes the Ursaring. We can fully farm down, so the opponent top left's the match. Jeez. Next match is going to be Octillery leading into a Tropius. I am going to fast move check, but I actually decide against staying in. It was an Air Slash Tropius, or rather it is an Air Slash Tropius, but I am not going to stay in that matchup, as I would get outpaced to a Relief Blade before I'm able to make my surprise nuke, which really isn't a surprise. I think it's just a standard moveset for Octillery. But anyway, we're going to fire off a move onto the Licky Licky, and Licky Licky's going to shield our first Trailblaze, and they are terrified of a close combat here. I didn't even build up here, but we're going to get both shields from the Licky Licky, and now we've revealed our moveset. Our work here with our Ursaring is done, so I'm more than happy that they're throwing energy this soon, because they could have potentially taken another move there and just overfarmed to oblivion. But they opt not to do that. We're going to bring in our Typhlosion, and Typhlosion is super comfortable here. We can shield up anything that this is. It's going to likely be an Earthquake, but it's actually Shadow Ball and Body Slam. So you're going to see me throw one more Incinerate, go for the Blast Burn. We need this move to KO. Unfortunately, they're low, but not in Thunder Punch range. Licky, a very thick boy. They're going to bring in a Golurk, and oh my goodness, things not going very well for our boy here, Octillery. You know, I found it washed up on a beach one day, but now we're going to fire off this gunk shot, just like in the story where that dude fired off the gunk shot as well. Golurk needing to leave with a move. We're going to make the Octazooka, and Octazooka not a very large damaging move, but they nearly get one shot by it, and we get the lock-on down. GG's. In the next game, it's going to be Octillery leading into a Golisopod, and Golisopod, I don't know if this is actually just a good Pokemon in the remix meta, or if I just like hemorrhaged so much ELO that we are in certifiable Golisopod hours, but nevertheless, we're going to fire off an Octazooka bait. They don't respect the Gunk Shot, and that is a massive surprise to me. I was having Gunk Shot shielded when I was running this team while not recording, left, right, and center. Everybody knew about my Gunk Shot, or maybe they were just terrified that Octillery is on their screen. Nevertheless, Gunk Shot gets the one shot onto the Golisopod. The screenshot for the boys. In comes a Licky, and Licky is now tasked with farming down our Octillery. Unfortunately, we're probably going to get rollouted down here. I threw an alignment there. I've usually tried to time my moves based off of animation. I'll like when I'm super locked in, like time based off of like the amount of fast moves I'm throwing. But unfortunately there, I throw an alignment. They really need to fix rollout to animation for that reason, because Jesus, that move is so deceptive. It really does not look like a 3-turn move. And trying to time it off of animation is super hard, especially if it's like on a bring-in. I'm rambling right now. Shadow Ball nearly KOs the Typhlosion from full health, but it's perfectly fine. We're going to bring in our Ursa Ring here, and they switch into a G-Zing. This is perfect for us. We're going to fire off a Swift onto the G-Zing. G-Zing not going to respect it, maybe thinking we're fully walled with Trailblaze in close combat, but that's not what we're running. We have the Swift, and Swift hits like a truck. If you ever want to run a fun Pokemon, run Shadow Ursa Ring with Swift. This Pokemon is devastating with the amount of damage it outputs. We have one win con here. We called the first Brutal Swing bait, allowing us to have some play in that game, and now we're going to fire off another Swift. Swift onto Licky. We are now doubled up after throwing the one Shadow Claw. They shield up, and this Swift has to KO. But as we've seen, Ursaring with a massive attack stat, easily able to pick up that KO on the low HP Licky. GG's to this trainer. We've got the world's largest core breaker in the next lead. It is a Guzzlord leading into my Octillery. There's probably a joke here with how sus this situation is. I'm not going to say anything about it though. We're going to fire off the Gunk Shot at the Guzzlord. Are they going to shield it? They don't shield it, and that is so massive. The fact that they don't shield it, this was a massive core breaker for our team. We had no play into this whatsoever. You're going to see me aggressively pivot into the Typhlosion here, and they're going to bring in a Jellicent. Unfortunate timing error there by me. I could have thrown a free Incinerate, but instead I gave them an extra Hex for free there. Jellicent going to be able to fire off the Surf here, but now that I've grabbed the shield from the Jellicent, I have a much harder response and a Pokemon that I'd much rather have up energy, and that is Ursaring. Ursaring comes in to the Jellicent matchup, and we're going to actually fire off the Trailblaze immediately. This is the CMB tie to their next Surf. It takes 4 Hexes to get to a Surf. I believe it's consistently 4 now. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but they nerfed Surf, and it's bad now. Anyway, so is Jellicent. They're going to bring in a G-Zing, and as we've seen from the last matchup, we have not committed a shield. G-Zing down a shield, not in the best situation versus an Ursaring. They shield up. They are terrified. They bring in the Guzzlord, but Guzzlord is not going to be able to make enough moves here. The Dragon Tail fast move pressure is scary, but not scary enough. We're going to farm down the Guzzlord, and now we're going to be able to make another Swift onto the G-Zing. G-Zing not ready for what's about to hit it. The Swift, massive damage, nearly picking up the KO, and the Disrespect Trailblaze Zero Bubble for the boys. GG's to this trainer. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me, and I hope you guys found a little bit of extra enjoyment in today's meme style of video. A bit of a new one for me, doing a meme team, and probably not the best ideas. I should be trying to push for Expert and Legend right about this time of the season, but I'm instead in the Ace rank fucking around, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video nonetheless. All that being said, thank you again so much for watching. This has been Shmeaty. I hope to see you guys again next time, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.